The Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. It looks very different to how it was going to be last week because initially, of course, we didn't have a game this weekend due to the international break. Now we do. More on that coming up throughout this hour. Phil's away, owing to the fact that he thought there was a break this week due to the international break. So this week, the part of Phil will be played by Luke.
I was going to try to do an impression, but I've bailed. I'm not Luke Leahy. I can't do impressions.
No, a different Luke. This is Luke from... Wycombe Sound and Wycombe. You've got a foot in both camps.
I have a foot in both. Producer Luke, as Jack shouted at me earlier on today, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
My full title.
Reputation goes before you. So we'll discuss the events at Adams Park. Of course, it's been a hectic 7 days, or not even 7 days, since the Stevenage game, of course, on Saturday. We'll bring you up to date with the health of Brandon Hanlon and Luke Leahy as well. We'll reflect on a new signing, which was announced around 4:30 this afternoon, strengthening the forward line with the arrival of Lyle Taylor. You might not even have heard. You might just be, getting in and thinking, what's been happening? Yes, Lyle Taylor has been brought in and set to make his debut on Saturday against AFC Wimbledon, which you may recall was due to be on Tuesday. A 7 o'clock kick-off, the final group game of the Bristol Street Motors Trophy. Both clubs have already progressed in the competition, but Wycombe vying for the opportunity to top the group, which will be a nice one. Kick-off is at 12:30 on Saturday at Adams Park, not on Tuesday at 7. Don't go then. The idea, of course, is to give more time for both clubs in between their next fixtures with a number of injuries and also international call-ups as well. Also coming up on the programme, as well as hearing from manager Matt Bloomfield, who spoke to the media a little earlier on today from the training ground, we'll catch up with Alan Hutchinson, who's the chair of the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association. Their annual dinner kicks off a week tomorrow, or if you're listening on the podcast, Friday the 24th of November. And Martin O'Neill, the guest of honour, and Matt Bloomfield will be there as well, the current manager. But we're commemorating 30 years in the Football League. Alan Hutchinson used to be the press officer. Well, he had a number of roles at the club, but he had a fantastic relationship with the aforementioned Martin O'Neill, and he'll be regaling some of those stories. We'll hear from Craig as well, who does a lot of work with Wycombe Wanderers Women. And, of course, we'll bring you news from the foundation as well. For example, last week we talked about the EFL Week of Action. This week has been Operation Sceptre as well. And last night, Wednesday night, if you're listening on the podcast, there's a football event, a football-themed event, which we'll find out more about in the coming weeks as well, where youngsters, there's a police officer in attendance as well, and they can ask questions and really, develop their kind of behaviour and attitude, I guess, towards the police and really sort of be steered away from getting involved in crime. So we're featuring that as well. But first, as mentioned, Luke playing the part of Phil Catchpole this week.
All right, geezer. All right. Is that... No?
I'm not sure.
No, I'm just waiting for London.
Yes.
Not necessarily Phil.
No, and you did some hand actions as well.
Yeah, I talked well on the radio.
Which well, obviously no one's watching because they can't.
No.
But if they were, they'd have been quite entertained by that. But how would you sum up this week at the club?
Eventful, emotional, and busy.
So obviously you're at the game on Saturday, so kind of describe, if that's the right expression, kind of, because a lot of people, I guess, didn't really quite understand what was happening with either of the injuries, really.
It was obviously a lot going on in the week up to it. So there was lots going on in everyone's mind up towards the game. And then on Saturday, obviously there was the really early injury to Taff, which no one really knew what happened, but he has got quite a nasty cut on his lip, which he said just goes with the rest of the scars on his face, so that's fine. So no one really knew what sort of happened there. And then obviously there was the injury to Hanlon that happened as well, which from the look of photos and watching back the video, the obviously there was some sort of wrestling throwdown move on him, but the actual injury to his leg was done just before that as well. The way that he was standing and then twisting means that he's looking like he's going to be out for the rest of the season. And then the events that happened around Luke Leahy as well, which was horrific to watch from the gantry. His family members, as it's come out over the last few days, were also down that end as well. So I think what it did show is how well Wycombe Wanderers fans, players and the team as a whole just sort of show themselves to these events. We'll hear from the gaffer later on. The players went and made sure that Luke could, his tongue wasn't in a wrong place. They were being basically first aiders, the first people on the scene, guarding him when the treatment was being done as well, and how they made sure that Luke's fans were, Luke's family were okay as well. Joe Jacobson and some of the other players that weren't playing as well went round to make sure that they were okay and looked after them. So I think actually the club has shown itself in a really good light in the last 7 days in some trying and some emotional times.
No, absolutely, and subsequently, as the manager will tell you about later on as well, that there were mixed reports really that the club wanted the game called off, and it felt a bit at the time as well like there was so much added on time in each half, but to a point that the result and the outcome of the game didn't seem quite so important.
Yeah, and I think that was, if you've watched any of the post-match stuff, that is sort of the key things, because Brandon and Luke both went off into an ambulance. No one really knew what was going on, and we didn't obviously get the news that they had both been discharged from hospital till a lot later on. And I'm not going to talk for the gaffer. There's a really interesting interview that is on the Wycombe Wanderers social media where he talks about some of the other things that happened as well, and some things that were said that were going to happen after the game that haven't happened. So have a listen to that on Wycombe Wanderers social media, because it just shows and highlights what a club Wycombe Wanderers is.
No, absolutely, and really nice in that regard as well. And because obviously, there are players out on international duty currently as well. There are players who already were injured. Again, coming up later in the show, we'll discuss the players that are coming back. There was a behind closed doors game against Aldershot, which saw the return of the likes of Jack Grimmer and Captain Matt
Bloomfield,
the former captain. No, he was there.
Joe Jacobson.
Yes, that's him.
Christy Ward as well. Also returned. Thank you. And that was good news. But also, obviously, it felt like even before Saturday they were quite short. Yeah, I mean, we've got five players out on international duty, and I think the gaffer said double figures now for injuries as well. So, to be honest, it's the perfect time for Jack, Joe, and Christy all to be coming back into to better health and fitness as well. So it's going to be great to see them playing, if they do play again on Saturday. You would think after playing the game in midweek that they will be playing on Saturday, purely because there's not many other people to play. I've not been asked yet, but I am ready.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Great news. Brandon put out a tweet a little earlier on, didn't he, a post just saying that he's really grateful for the support he's received, and as you say, it looks like he'll be out for the rest of the season. Yeah,
he said on social media earlier, after being stretchered off on the weekend due to an injury to my ACL, I will be missing out the rest of this season. It's hard to take right now and a long road to recovery, but I will be back stronger. I want to thank the fans and everyone for all the messages and support.
I think that was a real relief, wasn't it, to hear on Sunday, I think it was, that both players have been discharged from hospital.
Yeah, and I think obviously for both of them, especially if you're on the in the Frank Adams stand, you would have seen the injuries and how much pain they were both in, and obviously the how much attention was being paid on Luke, so you knew it was a severe what had happened. And Luke as well tweeted out earlier in the week as well, thanking everyone for his the messages that he's been sent over the last few days as well, and that thanking everyone at the club as well for how they looked after him and his family as well. He also said, thank you to my teammates for quickly realising and getting to my attention, physios and doctors, and lastly, thank you to members of the South Central Ambulance Service and staff at Stoke Mandeville Hospital. We were talking after the game that it was quite nice they both went to the same hospital, and hope they sort of, when Luke came back round, was on the next bed to Brandon, and sort of like, oh, what are you doing here?
Oh, that is really nice.
Yeah, that might not be true, but it was quite nice. That's what we were thinking.
He didn't say, oh, what are you doing here?
No.
That might not be true. Fantastic to hear that, and we obviously wish them both a really speedy recovery, and hope to see them back on the pitch and perhaps here again soon as well. Because it was only on Tuesday that Luke was here.
Yeah, it's how fast things have changed this week. Obviously, we'll talk about the new signing in a moment, but talking to Luke before the game, and as well, so it's such a shame because both of them were doing so well. And obviously with Brandon being out for the whole rest of the season, obviously we hope Luke will be back very soon. But obviously, if anyone's going to know how important it is to take time after head injuries or any kind of injuries, is Matt Bloomfield. So he said today, as you'll hear later, that there will be no rush to get Luke back on the pitch.
And really interesting for you to get a sort of club's eye view, if that's the right word, of bringing in reinforcement of great quality.
Yeah, a signing today, which is brilliant. As the tweet said, we need a striker, and we got one. Lyle Taylor joining the club on a short-term deal. That was announced earlier on today, and will be going straight into the squad to face his former side, actually, Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy at Adams Park on Saturday, not Tuesday, and 12:30, not 7 o'clock.
Absolutely, and an interesting Thunderbirds connection there.
Yeah, well, I can't take the credit for the idea. It was Matt Cecil's idea. We've become, I hope, well known. Is that the right word for the yellow GIF?
Synonymous.
Good
Notorious.
Word. Notorious. Let's go for that. For the yellow GIF. So we're talking about, how can we, what can we do to bring on Lyle? Both of us are fans of Thunderbirds, International Rescue. So that's what we went with. Why not?
Yeah. Why not indeed?
Why not indeed? Yeah. But he is already again one of these players, and we said about it with many of the new signings, Luke Leahy, Richard Keogh, that he feels like he's been at the club for a long time. Obviously, he's very good friends with Adebayo Akinfenwa. You may know him for his time at Wimbledon as well. Aware of his work. So it's there's a lot of connections to him. The gaffer, saying about how they looked at him in the summer as well, but it just wasn't right timing. So he got his man in the end.
So you'll be able to hear live commentary from Adams Park from the unusual kick-off time of 12:30 on a Saturday. Yeah,
it's very confusing this weekend because obviously it's the Christmas light switch on as well. So live commentary of Wycombe versus Wimbledon with Sam Avery and Ben Blake.
A number of substitutes there.
There's many substitutes. Will be build up to the game from 12 o'clock on FM, on 106.6 FM and on Wanderers TV. Not online. Do not listen on Radio Player. It won't be there. You'll be listening to Christmas Light Switch on otherwise.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could tune into Christmas Light Switch.
But if you want football coverage, it won't be there. Sorry.
No, and don't tune in at 3 when you'd expect football.
No, because it won't be then either. No.
It would have finished.
Yeah. That definitely will be Christmas Light Switch on.
That would have gone into extra time then.
It would have.
But yeah, maybe, I don't know if you know, but maybe some representatives from Wycombe Wanderers might be at the Christmas lights.
You never know.
Anything could happen.
Not Matt Bloomfield singing.
No, more on that later. Yeah. That's all to come as well.
One other thing I forgot to mention that happened this week.
Yes.
Is that you can now follow up-to-date news for Wycombe Wanderers via WhatsApp.
Ooh.
We've got a WhatsApp channel because that's the new and cool thing to have. All the details are on the Wycombe Wanderers website, or just search for Wycombe Wanderers under the channels.
Sounds very good indeed.
It's very high tech.
Exciting.
Yeah.
WhatsApp. Look, WhatsApp. What? Sorry.
WhatsApp. Yeah. Yes. Go on to WhatsApp. Go to the middle tab thing. Search for Wycombe Wanderers, and you'll get all the good stuff.
You heard it here first.
You did. Well, probably not.
Probably not.
No. Secondly.
Yeah. Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll be hearing from Alan Hutchinson, who's the chairman of Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association. Matt Bloomfield as well. We'll catch up with him to preview Saturday and review what's been happening at the club over the last few days. Craig will join us as well from Wycombe Wanderers Women.
Online, on Radio Player and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll round up what's happening with Wycombe Wanderers Women. We'll hear from manager Matt Bloomfield as well, who talks about an eventful week at Adams Park, plus, of course, building up to Saturday's game in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, which has been rescheduled from Tuesday night. Now a 12:30 kickoff at Adams Park against AFC Wimbledon. But first, if you're a regular listener around this time to the show, you'll know that we dedicate the third of the show to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, who coming up very, very soon at the end of the month, or next week if you prefer, have their annual dinner, and it's a very special event this year commemorating 30 years of the club in the Football League. I'm very pleased to say we're joined by the chair of the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, Alan Hutchinson. Thank you so much, Lee, for joining us.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
And it must take a lot of organising the dinner, but also, such a special occasion. It probably doesn't feel like sort of 30 years ago to yourself.
Well, it does in a way, because everything in those 30 years has been going on at an incredible pace. And it's been quite exciting, really. But we've actually launched the Ex-Players in 2008. And because of COVID, of course, we couldn't have one dinner. I think it was 2019. It might be 18, but I can't remember. But that's why this is our 13th, because it should have been our 14th. But it's our 13th. And, there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into doing it, because not only have you got to do all the meals and think about what we're going to do and what's going to happen, but it's also getting all the people to come in. Asking all the ex-players if they want to come, and will they come, and we'd love to see them, because we're either doing an event that concerns them when they were playing, or an event that they know other people are with or about, and so it gives them a chance to meet up with ex-players that they've known or either want to meet. And so it really is terrific. I mean, so far, and I don't think it's going to get any higher, but I think it's about 170 that are coming this year.
No, that's incredible. I was fortunate enough to go last year, and it's a real fantastic occasion and atmosphere as well. And brilliant to have Martin O'Neill confirmed this year, who is someone who you've had a fantastic relationship with over the years. Perhaps you could, if you can recall your very first encounter with him.
Oh, yeah, I can. Yes, it was amazing. He joined in the February of 1990, and it was amazing that he actually came at all, because originally when he bumped into Alan Parry, a match that they were both at, they started having a chat, and Alan Parry said to him, look, he said, why don't you think about becoming our next manager? We're looking for a new manager. So he said, anyway, in the end, he said, yes, I will. I'll be very interested to see what the situation is. Anyway, when AP gets back to the club and finally meets up with Ivor Beeks, who was the chairman then, Ivor said to him, well, he said, the problem is Kenny Swain has agreed to do the job. So he said, there's no, that's it. He said, you have to give him a call and tell him you're sorry. So that's what happened. And then the very next day, Kenny Swain rings Ivor and says, I'm sorry, I'm pulling out. I don't think I will do it after all. And then Alan has to, of course, ring him again and say, look, Kenny Swain's dropped out. Do you fancy doing it? If so, give Ivor Beeks a ring and you can sort out a meeting as soon as possible. And that's exactly what happened. And so in the February of 1990, he arrived at the club, and it was interesting to meet him. It really was.
So how did he sort of settle in there initially? Because I guess with any new manager, it must take a while to kind of bed in and for them to make changes.
Well, yes. In fact, to be honest, we didn't get on very well for the first 6 or 7 weeks. He thought I was trying to run things. I wasn't. I was trying to help him, but he didn't see it that way. And in the end, his lovely wife, Geraldine, who's a delightful lady, took me to one side and she said, now look, Alan, she said, Martin likes to do things his way. The best thing you can do is let him carry on and do it. She said, because if there's any item at any time or something he wants to refer to, he'll come and ask you. And once he's done that, you'll get to know each other and you'll find you'll probably get on very well in the end. And that's exactly what happened.
And I guess there must be so many kind of memorable occasions, throughout his time at the club, and obviously the Wembley finals. But I've seen videos of past players' dinners as well, where you've had a sort of Q&A with him, and brilliant some of the stories that obviously fans perhaps aren't aware of, and things that perhaps happen on a team bus, for example.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, this is why these annual dinners are so good, because you can drag up things like that come back to the memory, and people get quite surprised at what's happening and what's been going on in the past as well. And I bumped into Martin a little while ago. I can't remember where. It was at the football club. There was something going on. I can't remember what it was now. On the opening of a room upstairs. There's an opening of a room upstairs, and he attended it. And he came up to me and said, oh, how are you? I said, yeah, fine. And we had a long chat. And in the end, he said to me, oh, he said, wasn't it terrific? He said, when we worked together all those years ago. And I said, well, when we finally got to know each other, it was superb. But, so he's got lots of good memories. And that's why it's worth doing an interview with him, because he'll come out with his memories, and there'll always be a good story that's linked to it as well.
Because obviously you'll have great memories of the trips to Wembley with the playoff final and the FA Trophy final, but I guess as well it's the kind of sort of Tuesday nights in Macclesfield, or the things which are kind of much kind of less perhaps known about.
Well, it's quite incredible. I mean, for example, the first season that when he came in the in the February of 1990, we finished 10th in the GM Vauxhall Conference, which was the highest we'd been for some time. And we only lost 2 games after he joined, which was quite remarkable. But also, we got to the Bucks and Bucks Cup final to play Slough Town at Hungerford, which back then was a really big trophy, And it turned out to me an absolutely superb game, marvellous game, and a really big crowd as well. But we managed to win that 2-1, and so it was a good start for him. And I think he realised that, as long as he kept going and brought some new players in, then things would improve, as they surely did. And I remember he asked me to go to a game with him at Brentford, and it was for the reserves. And I said, well, what do you want to go to the reserves? He said, I'm going to be looking at the centre-half, Terry Evans. He said, I'm interested in him. He said, we see what he's like. Well, after about 15 minutes, I said to him, hey, I'd like to look at the right back. And he said, yeah, so do I. He said, he's terrific. He said, get his name and see. So I went down the stairs and found out who he was and all that kind of thing. And then at the end of the game, Martin went through into the dressing room, met the manager, had a chat with him. Then they brought the chairman out, and Martin had a chat with him, and then gone out to his car, got in the car to go back to the ground, and he said, we're going to be signing him. He said, I've done an agreement, he said, to get him to the club, which was absolutely terrific to get a player like that. I said, well, what about Terry Evans? I've got to think about him a bit more, you see. Well, the point was, Terry hadn't played for a long, long time, and he wasn't fit. And it looked that way when you saw him back then. Anyway, when Cozzo came, he started talking to him about Terry Evans, and Cozzo said, yeah, he said, he is good. He said, don't you worry, he wouldn't let you down. He said, he's just got to get fit, and he said, he knows that. Well, anyway, we went to our first, he did sign Terry Evans, and we went to the first game, and I sat with him on the bus, on the team bus, going up there, and I can't remember where it was now, but it was somewhere in the middle of the country. Just can't remember where it was. But we went up there, and he said, the problem is, he said, I'm not fit. He said, I'm nothing like as fit as I should be. And he said, I'm really concerned. I might not do that well today. Anyway, he had a few problems at the back and scored a very good goal. And we won the match 3-1. And I did this interview with Martin after the game, which was terrific. And he came up with this line that said, well, he was far more dangerous in our box than he was in theirs. And, of course, I mentioned that to Terry, doing an interview with him live on Wycombe Sound, I think, or one of the things that was going back then. And he came out with a few words, and suddenly this little voice in my ear said, we seem to have lost contact with Mr. Hutchinson. We'll have to come. And, of course, it's what Terry actually said. So they pulled him out. And I said, look, we'll do an interview tomorrow. I said, there's no good you getting upset about it now. We'll do an interview tomorrow, and you explain to everybody what being fit really means. The fact is, some of the people in the stand know that what they think is being fit is nothing like it. But even players like me who played for a while never ever played at your level. And when we think we're fit, we're nothing like what you guys have to get the fitness. So we did this terrific interview. It really was good. And it won an awful lot of fans over who tuned in to listen to it. And suddenly that was helpful to him. And we got very close. We've been big friends ever since. Since.
It's really nice to hear. And was it long into Martin's tenure where you thought, something special is happening here?
Yes, I mean, it was obvious that what he wanted to do and what he was trying to do would be to bring a really decent side into Wycombe that would fetch more people into the ground. And, all he did was want to win things. That's all he was interested in doing, winning things. And he really was quite serious about it. The other thing that was interesting, too, was that the following year, when it was 1990 itself, 1991 season, that's when we opened Adams Park. And, of course, there was a big build-up to doing all that. I was really involved in that in a big way. And I thought, well, what a good idea it would be for me to try and get Nottingham Forest to come down, the side that Martin had played with for so long, you see, who were then a very good team with a lot of good players in their team. And I said to him, Martin, is there a chance that you can give the manager up there a call? I said, because I tried to get hold of him and he's busy and I just don't seem to be able to get through to him. But, if you could see, the trouble is, Hutch, you see, we don't get on very well. He said, so he won't speak to me. Oh, God. Oh, so it was a real problem, but I did finally manage to get hold of him. And he was great, he was terrific. We got on very, very well. And I think he was so pleased to come down, which really was great for the crowds, because it really did pull the crowds in, with the team they got and also the manager who was a big name in the game back then. So, no, it was great stuff.
So what was that transition period like? Because I think a lot of fans remember, the last game at Adams Park, and as you say, last game at Lokes Park, and as you say, the first game at Adams Park.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, yeah. We had a very good game at the last game at Lokes Park. In fact, Martin played in that. He came on as a sub and played about 15 minutes. And I also managed to get some really big names for that one as well. It really was great. That was a very, very good end to our Lokes Park days, with a big crowd in there as well at the time. It was just superb.
And obviously, as your role as the press officer, were there occasions where you had to really kind of guide Martin as to what he said to the press, or were there certain things that he had to kind of keep to himself and not kind of reveal so much?
Well, luckily he was he knew that he was good at that. He was good at that. It's very, very, very rare that I had to say to him, "Oh, don't say that," or But no, he was good at that. He thought, well, and he was clever at just launching something that might ask them to keep asking questions, which was very clever. So it meant we kept appearing in the papers, and yeah, it was very good.
And obviously, as well, we mentioned the trips to Wembley, but things like the Runcorn and Kidderminster and Preston games must really stand out for you as well.
Oh, they were incredible. The 2 wins that we had in the FA Trophy, they were just fantastic, wonderful games. But the Preston game, that was something else, because to beat them the way we did was absolutely superb. Not too many people thought we would win that game, because Preston were the favourites. But and of course the interesting thing is that playing for Preston North End on that particular in that particular final, and he played against us several times, was the former Wycombe manager who just left to go to Queen's Park Rangers, and he was playing for Preston North End. And of course, when he came to the club and joined the club, I said, no doubt you'll recall the games. He said, don't speak to me about those matches, because we beat them twice in big games like that. It's quite incredible.
No, absolutely. And David Moyes played in that Preston team as well.
Yes, he did, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, but that was a superb game, and David Carroll was absolutely brilliant in that game. He really was. And of course, I think we had another player that was also a very, very good player that Martin brought in from, I can't remember where it was now, but he was a decent player, and he had a good game as well. It's very difficult to try and remember all the names when I'm speaking like this, so I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no trouble at all. Quite understand. Many a player has passed, but in that time. But we've been so fortunate to be able to speak to many of the players from that era. And one thing that they say is how good a man manager Martin was, and of course is, but how he installed such belief into the players as well.
Oh yes, he was good with players. He was clever. What I used to like him do, I said to him, "Why do you do that?" So he said, I said, "That's rather good." I said, "I've never seen another manager ever do that." And in the dressing room before the game, he'd get the defenders in one area, and that's where he had it so that defenders would sit there, the midfield players would sit there, and the front players would sit that group. So that was where they stayed the whole season. So that every time they went into the dressing room, they knew exactly where their seat was, where they were going to hang their clothes and everything. It was really good. And then he went up to the goalkeeper with the defenders and sat and had a chat with them. Then he'd move on to speak to the midfield players and have a chat about them, what he expected from each of those players, what he wanted them to do, and then he'd move on to the front men and then speak to them as well, so that the whole thing he'd discuss was linked with the ball. If you get the ball, give it him, and if you get, and so on. And it was really good the way he did it.
So what would you say is Martin's legacy at the club?
Sorry?
And what would you say is Martin's legacy at the club?
Well, I think his legacy was that he was someone who thoroughly enjoyed Wycombe Wanderers, who really loved being there, and he did everything he possibly could to make sure that they became a really good side and got the fans in who loved him, who really did. And I think this is why he keeps coming back now. Anything that is a bit of an evening or we're launching something or opening something, he always likes to attend, and he comes along, and it's just terrific.
And I imagine you'd like him to have stayed longer as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. But you see, once he'd achieved what he'd achieved at Wycombe, there were so many clubs after him when he decided to go. You see, at one time there were quite a few clubs who came after him in the middle of the last season, and he told them all no, he wanted to stay with the football club until the end of the season, rather than just walk out and let them down. He decided he would stay there at the very last of the season. And I do remember this, Bristol Rovers, Nottingham Forest, Leicester City, they were all very interested in him and were keen to take him on. And it's quite. And in the end, he went to Norwich. When he left the club at the end of the season. In June, he joined Norwich City after having spoken to Rovers, Forest, and Leicester City about taking on a manager's job with them. So it was quite incredible, really, how famous he'd become.
And it must have really felt as well at the time, you know, the club was one of the top non-league clubs in the country, and then, you know, becoming a football league club, and a lot of people would have known, you know, it must have been quite a sense of pride for everyone working and associated with the club that Martin was the manager. Yes,
exactly. Yes, that's absolutely right. So really, it worked out well for everybody. It did, really. We always knew he was going to go. He was never going to spend his time with Wycombe Wanderers for as long as some of the others have, mainly because back then there were so many clubs that were desperately looking for a decent manager that could either get them out of one division into another one, or even start winning games, of course, if they were a club down the bottom end. But it was terrific, absolutely terrific.
And great to be associated with that, you know, moment of history of the club, you know, getting Football League status.
Yes, exactly. Of course, which is what we did, because when he joined, we were in the GM Boxall Conference, and we've now been in 30 years, which what you were really talking about, into the Football League. It's 30 years ago. You know, when we got there in 1993, we were champions of the Vauxhall Conference, and then the following season, we first division in the Football League, which was in Division 3.
And great to have Martin as a special guest, obviously, at the dinner, and also many other players from that era as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, as I say, not only Terry Evans is a really, really big friend, but there were four of us that worked together at the club for many years, and we all got on so well. Terry was one of them, because after he finished playing, he always told David Jones he'd love to be his assistant, because it's something he needed to learn about, because he wanted to do that, get into the game where, you know, he could be look after players and treat them and find out how he could get them fit. So he worked with David Jones, who's another good friend, and then of course the club doctor back then, Gina Allen, who was absolutely superb. And so the four of us meet up and have done every year since I left in 2008. We meet up every year, and just all the memories come rushing back, you know, all the great stories come out. But it's just good when you work with a group that you did so well with, and we worked together for 20 years, as I say, you know, and all got on so well. They do become very, very strong friends.
No, absolutely, and it'd be great to relive those memories at the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association dinner on the 24th.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, and of course, John Taylor does an awful lot of work on that. He's terrific, as he always has been, which is the very reason that when he was only the second person I rang. John Maskell was the first person I called and asked him if he'd like to become a member of the Ex-Players Association Committee, and JDT was the second one. And it all came to me because when I worked for the Daily Mail in Fleet Street, which was in the late 1958, I joined the Daily Mail, and after a year or so, I got into the lift with Lord Rothermere, the owner, and I'd got this reputation very quickly there because everybody thought I thought it was from Cornwall or Devon. They would say, "How are you then? Hey, you're all right." I said, "Hold on." I said, I'm not. And they all thought I got this accent, which I didn't realise, but I probably had a Bucks accent. Didn't realise it. And of course, when I spoke on that, I said, "What's all that about?" And then all the other thing that I can't remember what it's called now, the Cockney slangs. I hadn't got a clue what. I mean, I'd been there 3 weeks. I got into the Evening News. There was another paper that we owned, that the Mail Group owned, and all of a sudden this boy said, "John," and I got off. I said, "John." I said, "My name's not John. I make sure everybody's John here, aren't they?" He said, "Here, just take these up the apples. First door on the right. If the geezer in there says anything, tell him we'll have a rabbit on the dog."
You thought you were at a farm or something?
I hadn't got a clue what he was on about. And there's a group down there all cracking up with laughter and sort of, just taking the mickey out of me because they thought I came from way out in the country. When I said High Wycombe, that's why no one had ever heard of it, It was quite extraordinary. But they were wonderful days, absolutely wonderful days. And Lord Rothermere realised that was who he was speaking to when we were in the lift. And he said, "Oh, you're the young lad from Buckinghamshire?" I said, "Oh, yes, my lord, I am." "Oh, it's jolly good." He said, "How are you getting on?" I said, "Yeah, fine." He said, "I understand you're doing a very good job." I said, "Well, I'm trying very hard." "Well, you seem to be doing very well." He said, "It's like anything in life. Remember this. If you all get the right people, you always get the best result." And I'll never forget him saying that to me.
No, it's a great message to today. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Oh, pleasure.
Alan Hutchinson is the chair of the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, speaking to us here at Wycombe Sound.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Final part of this week's Wycombe Wanderers Show still to come. We'll hear from manager Matt Bloomfield. He'll be talking us through a lot that's happened since the last show, especially, of course, that game at Stevenage, and will bring us updates on Brandon Hanlon and also Luke Leahy's health as well, and situation regarding the events at Adams Park on Saturday. But first, we're regularly throughout the season following Wycombe Wanderers Women, and they've got a cup game happening this weekend. I'm very pleased to say that Craig, who does a lot of work for Wycombe Wanderers Women with the media and sorts out with a lot of interviews that you hear on the Wycombe Wanderers Show as well, joins us this week and can bring us up to date with their next fixture.
County Cup quarter-final against Abingdon. They got promoted last season. Very good side. Now in the National League. And it's a great challenge for the girls to sort of see where that's the next standard, and that's the league above to match us. But it's been so stop-start in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. We've had 2 postponements away to Woodley and away to Worcester. So the girls are just sort of itching to sort of get back on the pitch.
And as well, a really nice opportunity, I guess, for any who are having injury problems to get over those and really kind of establish a bit more consistency back in the side.
Yeah, always. I mean, we've got a couple of girls that sometimes have to work on Sundays as well, that are on shifts. So you add that to a couple of injuries, and then you sort of start to look at the bigger, the wider, the group that you have. So it has sort of in a way. In some situations allowed us to kind of rest a few girls, and everyone's had a Sunday off to recharge the batteries, which is, regardless of whatever stage of the season you're at, is a good time. But at the moment, with the wetter months coming and the colder months, it's we play on a 3G, so we've got our surface is always ready. I remember in January or February of this year, we played in -6 and the pitch was still playable at Burnham, which is a testament to the work they do there. But these all grass pitches don't stand a chance in that weather.
And really nice as well for the manager to have options. We spoke to Emily last week, and really nice that she was able to come on for Chelsea when she was injured, and great to talk to her as well, because such a stage that she is in her sort of playing career, that she's able to benefit from Chelsea's experience, but also she's had last season in the first team too.
Oh, absolutely, Colin. I mean, Emily was really put in the deep end last season, and she did tremendously well. She's 16, she's just come from the EDA, from the Wycombe Foundation. And she did really, really well. When her February month was 3 clean sheets, and that was a testament to herself and the defence of the relationship that they built over that time. But yeah, it does give other people opportunity as well. I mean, Amira is she's another one that springs to mind. 16, it's her birthday today actually, and she's another one that's come through the sort of the ranks, and she played really, really well in the Penn and Tyler game. She changed that game down the left with Maddie Armstrong. Those two changed that game, and it's a testament to these young players that watch the first team train every Tuesday and every Thursday, and they know the standard, and if they're given an opportunity, they're coming in and they're doing really, really well.
And you mentioned Maddie. Due to speak to her on next week's show, and really nice that she's able to come in with former captain Cara's departure as well, and has really made that left back spot her own as well.
Absolutely, and Maddie has played left back in the past, but she definitely in a couple of pre-season games she kind of played sort of wide right or wide left, and against Penn and Tyler she did play wide left for a little bit, scored and got an assist, so she did well there. But fundamentally she came in at left back to replace Cara at left, which was a big loss. But Maddie has just kind of come in and completely kicked on. She's a real success story as well. Again, another sort of 17-year-old just coming in and just getting on with it, and she's really, really done well this season, and looking forward to hearing your chat with her next week.
And it's really brilliant. We spoke to Sarah recently as well, who's an experienced player too, who's come into the side, into the squad competitor recently as well, but can really bring a lot to the dressing room too.
It's such a good balance. We've just talked about, a couple of 17-year-olds, and even Emily as well, who's 17 now as well, who's 16 last year. And then you've got Sarah, who has a little bit more experience. She's been in this league a lot. She's been at higher leagues and other teams, and has been a captain before in the past with other teams as well. And all that experience that she brings in, that you spoke to Chelsea as well, that you mentioned earlier as well, she brings a lot of experience in. We've got a number of other girls like Bobby as well, and she's got a lot of experience as well. So, you start really adding lots of pieces to the puzzle, and before you know it, you've got a really nice mix of experienced girls and players and younger players.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing how they're doing in future weeks. Thank you so much, Annie, for your time.
You're welcome, Colin. Take care.
More from Wycombe Wanderers Women, almost every week on the Wycombe Wanderers Show as well. As mentioned, Matt Bloomfield, the Wycombe Wanderers manager, spoke to the press earlier on today, and of course started by giving us the latest on the health of Luke Leahy. But first, Brandon Hanlon.
Yeah, we're really sad and disappointed for Brands that his season's come to such a premature end. I'm really pleased. I've been really pleased with the work that Brandon's put in, from the off-season program that he followed to come back in such good shape, and the way he's been leading the line for us, allowing us to press from the front. I think that the way he's bought into the way we want to play has been incredible. I've got a lot of time for Brands as a person. I think he's an absolute diamond. So for his season's come to a premature end, it's certainly very, very sad and disappointing for him and for us, because he's a big part of what we've been building over the last few months. So he's obviously going to, leave a big hole. Luke, I'm pleased to report he's feeling slightly better today. He's had a rough few days trying to get over the incident from Saturday. But he's feeling slightly better, and we're hoping that he's on making his first steps to a full recovery.
And is it something that you're especially, keen that obviously he kind of progresses correctly in the, your experience with head injuries too?
100%. You can have it from me that we will not rush him. We will not force him to be back playing until he's absolutely ready. I know how serious head injuries can be. I know how important it is to allow him the time that he needs to recover properly. These head knocks, as they've been described as, are certainly not knocks. They're serious head brain injuries that can cause long-term effects, and you have to give the sufferer the right amount of time to recover. So their long-term health, which is the most important thing in Luke's life for him and his families, is his brain health for his long-term future. So, you have it from me that we'll give him the right amount of time to recover. And when he does, we can't wait to welcome him back into the team.
And also, I'm sure you're keen to stress the seriousness of the situation on Saturday, because I think many people didn't quite know sort of what was happening or the seriousness of the situation.
Yeah, it was really serious. It was, there was a real concern for Luke. The doctor was, searching for his pulse to check that everything was all right, because he'd suffered a really big collision. It was an incident of serious nature. I'm not sure that's really been understood outside of our dressing room enough, that our boys witnessed and were first responders to a really serious incident on a football pitch where they were concerned for their friend. And, obviously off the back of that, the shock and the trauma that those boys suffered from being those first responders and the boys that were around him, and then carrying on to play in a football match where they were in shock and suffered from a traumatic experience. It's been quite a big outpouring this week, I would suggest, in terms of dealing with those players. First and foremost, their well-being and their mental and physical health has to be number one priority for us as a football club and as guardians of those guys when they're in our care. So we've dealt with that this week the best we possibly can. And their care for Luke and his health is at the forefront of all of our minds.
And obviously, before Saturday, you had a number of injuries, and this obviously adds to it. But fantastic news that you've been able to bring in Lyle Taylor as sort of strength up front.
Absolutely, Lyle's someone who's had a very, very good career. Comes with a really big caliber of experience at such a good level. Scored goals in all leagues. So we're looking forward to welcoming him into the building. He's someone who I've been speaking to for a number of months. I've been chasing for a number of months. He's had a lot of interest over the summer, and fortunately for us, he's still on the market and available. So we spoke again after the weekend. He's someone who I've warmed to a lot in terms of his personality and his honesty, and someone who I've always admired for a number of years in terms of going back to the days when it was him and B up front for Wimbledon, and we used to lock horns with those guys on a regular basis. And those two were always a pain up front, and he always, used to be involved in goals or goal scoring events or in their build. So yeah, I think he's someone who I admired for a number of years. He's always obviously had a very good career, and he's someone we're really pleased to be able to welcome into the building at a time when we suffered injuries, especially in those forward areas.
And could he be someone seen as perhaps like a typical Wycombe signing in terms of like the stage of his career and the profile and how he fits in with the rest of the group?
I think so. I think I referenced it earlier on with Bayo. I think that B came here in his 30s and had the best 6 years of his career, and he will openly admit that. So I think there's been other players who have signed in their 30s at Wycombe who have gone on and had incredible times here. So I think that Lyle arrives here with a point to prove. He wants to score goals. He wants to be part of something special. He wants to be a part of an environment that he's proud of and a team that he's proud of, and he wants to achieve things. So for me, it's a good mix, and we're really, really pleased to have him here. And we can't wait to see him in a Wycombe shirt.
Another boost for you, the return of Jack and Joe and Christy this week in a practice game as well.
Yeah, those guys have been out for a while, so we have to take it slow with them, but they were all able to get 45 minutes under their belt on Tuesday afternoon. So we're really, really pleased that they were able to make the first steps on their comeback. So yeah, they've been out for a while. Christy's a young lad who we have high hopes for. And Jack and JJ are obviously real senior members of our squad who have not had their influence both on and off the pitch in terms of leadership in and around match days and on the pitch. We haven't had that for a number of months. So to slowly welcome those guys back is really key for us, especially coming into such a busy period of games.
And was the rescheduling of the game on Saturday, was that something sort of a kind of a no-brainer really, or something that was quite easy to arrange?
It was easy to arrange. It involved a phone call to Johnny, who I know fairly well over a number of years, to say, your game's off, so is ours. It makes sense for us both to play on Saturday instead of Tuesday evening. We hope that it provides, our supporters a Saturday lunchtime game to go to instead of a Tuesday evening, with children for school and all the rest of it late night. So it also gives both teams longer to recover for their league games coming next weekend. They've got Notts County, I believe, and obviously our Reading game. It felt like the reasonable, responsible and educated thing to do to move the game to Saturday afternoon. So it's what we're able to do. We're really pleased to have done that. And so thanks to Johnny and Wimbledon for being a part of that. So yeah, we're looking forward to the game.
And obviously, you won't want to give away your lineup, but I guess it'll be nice to feature a great opportunity for Lyle, hopefully, for fans to see him. And I guess it's a game you'd have made changes in anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the number of injuries we've got and the number of players we've got away on international duty, it doesn't take too much to work out that there's going to be several changes. It will be nice to hopefully see Lyle, as long as he can get through training these next couple of days. It'll be lovely to see him in a Wycombe shirt. It'll be lovely to give the opportunity to some of those boys that have not played as many minutes as they would have liked to recently. And we've got some young players who we're really keen to give some exposure in the first team environment to as well. So yeah, I think it'll be a mixture. It'll be everybody who we've got fit and available. If I'm honest, will be there on Saturday, and because the numbers we've got away on international are unavailable means as such. So we're looking forward to the game. It's going to be hopefully a really good game against two good teams, and we're looking forward to seeing some of our boys in action.
Is there anything particularly you're hoping to get out of it? Because obviously, if you win the game, you'll top the group, and it'll feel like a bit of a sort of extra special sort of cherry on the top, if you like, to the competition.
Yeah, what I want to achieve is everybody that plays with the identity and the style that we're trying to build on, plays with the identity of a Wycombe Wanderers player in terms of their conduct and the way that they work, the style of football we're trying to play. So irrespective of changes, I really, really hope that we can see a team similar in style. And if we do that, my belief is that we've been so close to picking up even more points than what we have this season. We want to pick up more points in the league programme, but we've already progressed in this competition, but any game we play, we want to win. So whilst we are going to make changes, we want to provide a performance that we're proud of, because we're building a certain style that we want to play, and we want that all players to be ready to step into league action if they're ready. And Saturday provides a very good opportunity for those boys to have exposure to that in a competitive environment.
And as you touched on, a great opportunity for fans who might not have been able to make the 7 o'clock kickoff on the Tuesday to come along on a Saturday.
Yeah, we've missed out on a couple of home league fixtures in the last couple of months, which has not sat terribly comfortable with us. But unfortunately, we've been forced into it due to the availability or lack of availability with internationals and injuries. So, yeah, I apologise for supporters with the number of games they have missed this year on a Saturday at home, the Cambridge and the Wigan game. But yeah, we're really pleased to have been able to arrange this for a Saturday and put that on. The Cambridge and the Cheltenham game, wasn't it? The home games. But we've been able to put this on for our supporters to come and watch on a Saturday, and hopefully some of those can take advantage of that and see some of these lads in action.
It could be a really great day out as well, because the Christmas light switch on in the town's been moved to the Saturday. The game before that, and I'm sure you're aware that your predecessor has performed on stage at a Christmas light switch on and actually sung Christmas songs. Is that something that was that part of the contract in your taking over, for example, or is that something that you need to be able to kind of be aware of?
Yeah, I think it's probably the best question I've been asked since I've been back as manager. So thank you for that. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is absolutely no chance of me singing at any Christmas lights or anything. My voice is incredibly bad. So, yeah, sorry to be sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But yeah, I think Gaz did an incredible job here, didn't he? Really, being the front of the team, but also with the things he did off the pitch in terms of his performance. But yeah, I'm sorry, mate. I'm just going to stick to the football.
I think we can take that as a maybe.
Possibly. I would like, if Arriva and Carousel are listening, I would like a Matt Bloomfield bus, please.
Absolutely.
I think it's about time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, Matt may well be singing on stage. Asterisk.
Probably not.
Probably not. It's unlikely.
It's unlikely.
Some breaking international news.
Oh,
you can bring
yes.
us.
Would you like some breaking international news, Colin Besley?
Yes, please. Is there any over-the-top sound effects / music that we could use for this?
Well, would you like some over-the-top dramatic music?
I think we've got time.
You think we've got time? Well, no.
Well, it does feel a bit like...
Does it sound like I'm padding?
Perhaps the music might not be a goer after all.
No.
Just bring us the news.
The news is Wales playing this afternoon, or this evening, more as it is, and Joe Lowe has scored in the first half, 1-0 currently.
Oh, fantastic.
Very, very good news.
That shows it's live. 1-0 currently.
1-0 currently, they're in the second half.
Oh, fantastic
You're
news. Great to have 5 representatives of Wycombe Wanderers currently on international duty.
Chris Farino making his first debut international game as well.
No, absolutely. Really well done for him. Really pleasing as well for people like Joe Lowe as well, who, to score indeed for your country, it must be an incredible feeling.
He keeps scoring as well. He's doing an excellent job. So, well done for him, and well done to all of them getting their call up.
Did you have some sausage roll news as well?
Oh, yeah. You seem to be confused by the Joe Lowe sausage roll sort of thing.
Yeah, do fill me in.
It's just something they call his goals, a sausage roll. I'm not 100%, I don't understand it either, but that's just what it's... It's Cockney rhyming slang,
I was going to say,
really.
Alan was talking about the Cockney slang earlier, and perhaps sausage roll goal.
Possibly, yeah. I think that might be what it is, yeah.
Perhaps sausage goal would be better.
Oh, yeah. I fancy sausage rolls now.
Because we were talking to Phil recently, weren't we? Sausage rolls in different languages, and there's some countries that don't have sausage rolls.
That's how it all linked up, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Just a quick recap then. Saturday, kick-off 12:30, build up at 12. If you want full live commentary from Sam and
Ben,
then tune in from
12.
Hear the whole match from
12:30.
Then switch over
from full time, which could be 5 o'clock, to be honest.
The referee's discretion.
Yep.
And enjoy the festivities in the town centre with the Christmas light switch on live on Wycombe Sound as well. Thank you very much for coming off the substitutes bench and playing the part of Phil admirably this week.
That's all right. I'm here all the time, basically.
Oh, join us next week on the show. We'll be catching up with Maddie Armstrong from Wycombe Wanderers Women. We'll be hearing again from Matt Bloomfield, and it'll be the eve of the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association annual dinner as well. So lots to look forward to. Maybe they'll have sausage rolls.
Possibly. Maybe Joe Lowe will bring some sausage rolls.
Pigs in blankets.
Is it Christmassy, the annual event?
Oh, very.
Oh, well, yes. Bring on the sausage rolls.
Crackers.
Bring on the Christmas food.
I mean Christmas crackers, not as in cheese and...
Father Christmas, will be he there?
I doubt it, but you can't rule anything out.
You never know. No.
Perhaps Matt Bloomfield will be singing.
As Father Christmas.
Join us on next week's show to find out perhaps some of that and more, or less as well.
Come on, you Blues.